Sam Grant moved purposefully through the narrow aisle of the Airbus A320, his uniform immaculate as always, a badge of pride for his role as a flight attendant. At 29, Sam had gained a reputation for his calm demeanor and ability to handle even the most challenging passengers with tact and warmth. However, his true skill lay in his uncanny ability to read people, a talent developed over years of interacting with travelers from every walk of life. The flight from Denver to Los Angeles was a standard route, bustling with tourists, business professionals, and families. Yet, as Sam conducted his pre-flight duties, a subtle unease crept into his thoughts, a feeling he couldn't quite shake. In row 17, seat A, sat Mei Lin, a slender 15-year-old with jet black hair tied into a tight ponytail. Her hands fidgeted with the hem of her hoodie, her gaze darting nervously across the cabin. Beside her in seat B was Neil Carmichael, a man in his late 40s with a polished appearance and an unsettling air of control. His crisp blazer and expensive watch clashed with his calm but firm grip on May's forearm. Nearby, in seat 17D, was Elena Morales, a middle school teacher on her way to a family reunion in Los Angeles. Elena's sharp, observant eyes lingered on May. Years of teaching teenagers had sharpened her instincts, and something about May's demeanor didn't sit right. As the plane prepared for takeoff, each of these lives, along with others on board, unknowingly became intertwined. Sam's sharp intuition, May's silent plea for help, Neil's threatening presence, and Elena's growing concern would converge in a way none of them could have anticipated. An hour into the flight, Sam Grant maneuvered the beverage cart steadily down the narrow aisle, offering his practiced smile to passengers. His rhythm was habitual, a friendly greeting, a swift pour of soda or coffee, and a reassuring nod before moving to the next row. But as he approached row 17, his focus shifted. The nervous energy emanating from the girl in seat 17A caught his attention. Mei Lin sat hunched in her seat, her petite frame appearing even smaller in the confines of the airplane cabin. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white with tension. Her dark eyes darted from the window to the man beside her, never lingering long enough to draw attention. She barely moved, her breathing shallow, as if she were trying to disappear into the fabric of her hoodie. Beside her sat Neil Carmichael, his demeanor outwardly calm, but Sam detected something in his posture, a stiffness that betrayed control rather than comfort. His left hand rested casually on the armrest between them, but Sam noticed how it angled subtly toward May, claiming the space as his own. When Sam reached their row, Neil looked up, flashing a polite but guarded smile. "Coffee, please," Neil said, his voice smooth but clipped. Without looking at May, he added, "And a juice for her." Sam nodded, pouring the drinks with precision. As he handed the juice to May, her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the cup. Their eyes met briefly, and in that fleeting moment, Sam saw something that made his pulse quicken. A flicker of desperation, fear, and something else, something urgent. May's hand brushed his as she took the cup, and in that instant, she made a subtle motion with her free hand. She curled her thumb into her palm and folded her fingers over it, a gesture that could easily have been mistaken for nervous fidgeting. But Sam recognized it immediately. It was a universal hand signal taught in training sessions about human trafficking, a silent cry for help. Sam's heart raced as he continued the beverage service, forcing himself to maintain a calm demeanor. His instincts screamed at him to do something immediately, but his training took over. He knew the risks of acting prematurely. If he misinterpreted the signal or drew attention to the situation too soon, it could put the girl in greater danger. He needed to confirm his suspicions and gather as much information as possible. As he worked his way down the aisle, Sam's thoughts swirled. Was it real? Was she truly signaling for help? Or had he misunderstood? The intensity in her eyes replayed in his mind. That brief exchange had conveyed more emotion than many conversations he had had during his years on the job. When Sam reached the end of the aisle, he turned and surveyed the cabin. His gaze settled on row 17 again. May stared straight ahead, clutching the juice cup with both hands as if it were a lifeline. Neil leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable, but Sam noticed the way his gaze occasionally flicked toward the aisle, watching for anyone paying too much attention to them. Sam continued his routine, checking on passengers, but his focus remained on May. He noticed how she avoided eye contact with Neil, flinched when his arm brushed hers, and kept her movements deliberately small, as if trying not to provoke him. In the galley, Sam discreetly grabbed his tablet, flipping through the flight crew manual as a cover while he considered his next steps. He needed to act carefully. False accusations could have severe consequences, not just for him, but for May as well. However, if he was right and she was in danger, every passing moment increased the risk. Jamie Reyes, his colleague, entered the galley, raising an eyebrow at Sam's focused expression. "You okay?" Jamie asked. Sam glanced around to ensure no passengers were nearby. "Row 17, he said in a low voice. "The girl. I think she signaled for help. You know, the hand gesture from the training." Jamie's face grew serious. "You're sure?" Sam hesitated. "I can't be 100%, but something feels wrong. She looks terrified, and the guy with her, he's off. I can't explain it, but my gut is telling me she's in trouble." Jamie nodded, her expression resolute. "Okay, let's not panic. Do you want me to watch them while you figure out what to do?" "Please," Sam said. "I need to talk to the captain." As Jamie discreetly observed row 17, Sam made his way to the cockpit. Inside, Captain Laura Hastings listened intently as he relayed what he'd seen. Her expression hardened, and she nodded. "We'll notify air traffic control. Let's keep it quiet for now. If she's in danger, we don't want to spook him." Laura used the plane's secure communication system to send an alert to authorities on the ground, detailing the situation and providing Neil's and May's descriptions. Meanwhile, Sam returned to the cabin, where Jamie discreetly updated him. "She hasn't said anything, but her body language is screaming, 'Get me out of here,'" Jamie whispered. "The guy, though, he's sharp. He's watching us." Sam nodded, glancing toward row 17. Neil's gaze met his for a moment, cold and calculating. Sam forced a smile and moved on, but his heart pounded. He knows we're watching. Elena Morales, seated across the aisle, had been observing the pair since boarding. Her years as a teacher had taught her to notice the small details others often overlooked. The way May flinched at Neil's touch, how she avoided looking around, and the tension in her shoulders. Elena's concern grew as she saw Sam pass by repeatedly, his expression betraying a subtle tension. When he finally walked past her seat again, she leaned in and whispered, "I don't want to overstep, but something's wrong with that girl." Sam paused, surprised by her insight. "We're aware," he whispered back. "Thank you for noticing. Please act normal and don't let them see you watching." Elena nodded, her heart racing. She didn't know what she could do, but she resolved to stay vigilant. As Sam returned to the galley, his thoughts churned. He replayed every interaction with May, every detail of her body language. The training had prepared him for this moment, but the weight of responsibility was overwhelming. He knew the stakes. If he was wrong, it could cost him his career. If he was right, and he failed to act, it could cost May her life. Steeling himself, Sam whispered to Jamie, "We're moving forward. I'll need your help." Jamie gave him a firm nod. "You're doing the right thing, Sam. Let's get her out of this." With the team ready to act, Sam knew the next steps would be critical. They couldn't afford any mistakes. In the galley, Sam discreetly relayed his concerns to his colleague, Jamie Reyes. Jamie's calm confidence reassured him. "We'll handle this, Sam," Jamie said, glancing toward the cockpit. "Let the captain know." Meanwhile, Elena Morales, who had been observing May and Neil closely, saw Sam return to the cabin. When he passed her row, she leaned in and whispered, "Something's wrong with that girl." Sam nodded subtly, appreciating her awareness. "We're addressing it," he whispered back, "but we need discretion." Back in the cockpit, Captain Laura Hastings listened intently as Sam explained the situation. "We'll notify air traffic control," Laura said, her voice steady. "Keep an eye on them, but proceed carefully." Using the plane's secure communication system, Laura sent an alert to law enforcement, providing details about the flight and Sam's observations. Sam's frequent passes-by, row 17, didn't go unnoticed by Neil, whose narrowed eyes followed the flight attendant's every move. Sensing the growing tension, Neil leaned toward May and whispered harshly, "You keep your mouth shut, or you'll regret it." Elena, overhearing the exchange, felt her concern escalate. Pretending to stretch, she let her book fall near May's feet. As May bent to pick it up, Elena whispered, "Are you in trouble? Nod if yes." May hesitated but gave the faintest nod before straightening. Elena's heart raced as she locked eyes with Sam, who had been observing the interaction. She gave him a subtle thumbs up, confirming May's silent admission. The crew convened in the galley for a quick strategy session. "We can't wait until landing," Sam said, urgency in his voice. "We need to separate them now." Jamie outlined a plan involving a staged turbulence announcement to move passengers around. Sam would approach Neil with a fabricated reason to relocate him to another seat. Meanwhile, Elena would assist in keeping May calm and safe. Captain Hastings approved the plan, warning, "This needs to be seamless. If he realizes what's happening, it could escalate." The announcement about turbulence sent passengers fastening their seatbelts. Sam approached Neil with a polite but firm tone. "Sir, for safety reasons, we need to move you to a seat closer to the front." Neil's eyes narrowed in suspicion. "We're fine here," he said curtly. "I insist," Sam replied, maintaining his composure. At that moment, Elena accidentally bumped into Neil, causing him to shift slightly in his seat. The distraction gave Jamie enough time to signal May to follow Sam toward the back of the plane. Realizing what was happening, Neil stood abruptly, but he was quickly restrained by another crew member and a male passenger who had volunteered to assist. Neil's shouts filled the cabin, but Captain Hastings reassured passengers over the intercom, urging calm. When the plane landed, law enforcement was waiting on the tarmac. Neil was escorted off in handcuffs, still shouting threats. May, shaken but safe, was reunited with officers who had been searching for her for days. As the hours wore on, Sam, Elena, and the crew provided statements to the authorities. May's parents, who had reported her missing, arrived at the airport, embracing their daughter with tears of relief. In the weeks following the flight, news of the incident spread nationwide. Sam and Elena were hailed as heroes, but both deflected the attention, emphasizing the importance of training and vigilance. Their actions inspired a ripple effect. Airlines began revising their training programs, incorporating more comprehensive modules on recognizing and responding to trafficking situations. Meanwhile, May, with the support of her family and counselors, began advocating for awareness, sharing her story to educate others about recognizing signs of trafficking. Sam, Elena, and Captain Hastings found themselves at the forefront of a movement. Together, they founded Flight for Freedom, an organization dedicated to preventing trafficking through education and collaboration. May, now a powerful voice in the anti-trafficking community, served as its youngest ambassador. Through courage, collaboration, and a willingness to act, a flight crew and a vigilant passenger turned what could have been a tragedy into a beacon of hope. Their story became a testament to the power of paying attention and trusting one's instincts, proving that even the smallest actions can change lives.